I'm a fairly visual person. Because of that, and since I wasn't doing an energy audit on my own home, I decided that I needed a model of the home I was going to be dedicating my precious calculator battery to. Now, I can't do 3D modeling, draw, or physically build anything that would even remotely resemble a house, but it just so happens that my good friend Jerome needs a house of his own, so I saw this as the perfect opportunity to build him a Victorian-era home. The issue with using Minecraft to do this is that each block is 1 cubic meter, so the unit conversions aren't going to be the most accurate. Anyways, Victorian homes are generally built out of stone and bricks, so I aptly used stone brick and nether brick to build the home. I built it in an 8x12x8 space with 4 1x2 windows in each wall. Like I said though, these aren't exact, so the proper dimensions should be listed right next to them. Now, despite my impeccable building skills and since I'm not a sadist, I decided that this house needed some improvements as it was going to be rather expensive to heat the place in its current state. So, to make Jerome more physically and financially comfortable in his cramped stone chamber, he first needs some insulation. His uninsulated walls currently have the astronomical R value of 0.7, which causes him to pay a measly $7,510 every year to make up for the heat lost through these walls. If we put some dense packed cellulose everywhere there isn't a stud or a window, we'd be able to take that yearly cost down to only $300. Filling up these walls would cost a little over $6,200, which is a huge cost, but it's possibly the most important thing that Jerome could invest in. Alongside saving over $7,200 in annual costs, the payback time is only a little over 10 months, making this next to a no-brainer of a purchase for him. Next up is the attic, no pun intended, and lucky for Jerome, there's already some loose cellulose insulation there. Since the attic already has an R value close to 20, he isn't losing too much heat through it, but it still costs him $104 to replace that heat. By spending $1,700 on some extra cellulose to reach R50, that cost drops by $61. However, the payback time is nearly 30 years. This is, contrasted to the walls, the worst payback time, but since Jerome won't be leaving this place anytime soon, I think it should be just fine for him. Switching focus away from the insulation, I want to take a look at the air sealing of the house. Some poor soul had to do a blower door test on Jerome's home, which gave a CFM 50 of 5,180 cubic feet per minute, which is a CFM natural of about 389.47. Using these numbers, I found that the air in Jerome's house completely changes every 64 minutes, which is acceptable for a, creature of his stature. The first thing he can do is replace his windows. He currently loses about $30 worth of heat through each window, and if he spent a little over $3,400 to replace all 16 windows in his house with double pane windows that have a U value of 0.33, that cost drops to only $9 per window, and leaves a payback time of only 10 years, which may seem like a long time to us again, but
it's nothing compared to the eternity that Jerome will be stuck in here.
This should drop the CFM natural down to about 281, meaning it now takes nearly an hour and a half for an air change to take place in his house, but that's still not as low as I'd like it to be. To get this even lower, I recommend that Jerome hire someone to do some rim joist installation, which should only cost him about $455. This should farther drop the CFM natural to 253.7, meaning that a complete air change now takes almost 100 minutes, which, while it could go lower, is still a good spot to be in.
Figured I'd record a time-lapse of editing this.
In the end, if Jerome takes my advice, he will be living in a much more comfortable home and be paid off in only 10 years, minus the attic. But then again, Jerome doesn't own the house. I do. And Jerome comes from an otherworldly dimension whose temperature is probably colder than space as there's no stars in the end. So I throw out all of my own advice and remodel the interior into a glass cage so that he may never escape.